Mark the sound.
You're so fancy. It's like film school all over again. I actually had to do that on set recently.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about that.
Okay. Yeah, we don't have to talk about that. What should we talk about here in this episode of the Second Draft YouTube channel / podcast?
I don't know. Maybe we should welcome people first. Welcome to the Second Draft. I know the name of the thing. Welcome to the Second Draft.
He's new.
I'm an intern, but I was recently promoted. I'm joined here by my cousin, a reformed swashbuckling pirate, and we're going to talk about football and beer and good stuff.
Yeah. Speaking of beer, what are we drinking?
This is Mountains of Mosaic from Flagstaff, Arizona. Dark Sky Brewing. Mosaic, as the name implies, is the primary hop in this build.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a really big bouquet.
Yeah, as soon as we opened it up, it was like bam! Like you can just smell those Mosaic hops. Like, yeah, like you might actually be able to smell it through the internet right now. That's how strong this bouquet is, but it is dynamite. It's delicious. Yeah,
it's pretty good. It's my favorite from Dark Sky so far.
Yeah,
they're pretty young, only about 2 years old, and
right on.
In that time they've done 200 beers.
No shit.
So yeah, they did 100 in their first year, and they did another 100 in their second.
The fucking brewmaster must be either pulling his hair out or he's just like going on all cylinders all the time.
I think they're just really hyped up about making good beer.
That's awesome.
Local place, and they're really capitalizing on the whole Flagstaff Dark Sky thing. It's the first international dark sky city in the world, I guess. So there's ordinances against light pollution and
just Sedona does a lot of that too. So that's cool.
It's a Southwest thing for sure.
Yeah, Flagstaff is really up and coming as far as microbreweries. The industry just kind of hit there recently, and it's just exploding. So
it did, yeah.
I gotta get back up there and visit.
Mother Road is super popular right now.
Yeah.
I've started to see Historic pop up in the Valley also.
Mm-hmm.
So some of those places are really coming up for sure. Even Wanderlust is a big one in Flagstaff also. Beaver Street has been a staple for forever.
Oh, Brambleberry is the shit.
Yeah, Brambleberry's good.
Yeah, you can't go to Flagstaff without stopping by Brews and Q's and having Brambleberry. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've
got the best happy hour in town too.
Anyway,
the red is also too really good.
Yeah,
the Railhead Red.
Yeah.
So let's move from this delightful beer.
Do we have to? Can we just stay with this delightful beer forever?
Continue on this.
I just want to dive into this glass and fucking swim around in it. Yeah.
It's a big build. I think it's only about 6%. It's not overly crazy on the ABV for an IPA. They do some giant IPAs. They have one called Meeseeks, which is a collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
Meeseeks from Rick and Morty reference there.
Right. Yeah.
But Meeseeks and Destroy is what it's called. A triple IPA. Not my favorite of their beers, but still tasty and punchy. Really punchy.
Right on.
Yeah. I don't know what happens now.
This is Alex's very first video podcast ever. Forever.
Yeah.
No, it's not. We've done it before.
Yeah.
Well, before we started recording this, you had a job offer for me. I don't know if you wanted to bring that up. We can discuss that. Something about picking apples.
Right. Okay, so the job offer goes like this. I really just need some apples picked from this tree.
Sure.
And
who doesn't?
Right. Everybody needs their apples picked. And now this is arguably the best tree. It's there are other trees that are on a more, you could say, collegiate level, and then this is just the show.
More of a professional.
Tree. Yeah, it's
level.
A professional tree,
right?
One could say, and I need some apples picked from it. Now I'm willing to pay you probably something like $12 per day for about 5 days, maybe a little bit more.
Okay.
Guaranteed.
Let's say 16 days.
16 days?
16 days sounds like a fair number.
Okay. All right, but guaranteed up front in those first 2 days, I'm going to give you something like $30.
Okay.
How do you feel about that?
That sounds great.
It sounds great.
Actually, no, it doesn't sound great. Fuck you.
But I heard from your friend.
I want $15.
This guy.
Fucking Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah. He denied a contract that his agent promised to the Steelers, 5 years for $12 million per year, $30 up front
in the first 2 years. Yeah.
what is going on there? I don't understand it at all.
It's a really weird situation. Both sides are saying something completely different. Le'Veon Bell's agent is saying that nobody's actually come to agreement at all. There was never like an actual signing. Nobody was like together with this deal. The Steelers are saying, yeah, he was like on board, ready to go, and then he turned around the next day. He was like, no, fuck you guys. So there is no truth from either side. What's happening right now is both parties are trying to spin the story in the media to make the other look better. What it's coming down to is the Steelers were forced to franchise tag him. And they're at the point now where deadlines are passed, shit's done, it's in the books, and if Le'Veon Bell does not sign the tender for the franchise tag, he will not play the season.
I just can't understand why you don't take that deal. I don't. Regardless of how proud you feel with your accomplishments, and Le'Veon Bell is talented, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
What does that do to your career when you sit a year because the league's not ready to? I don't know if this is precedented. I don't know if it's really happened before, but I'm sure there have been similar circumstances.
Well, there's always holdouts. I mean, there was holdouts. I think Cam Chancellor held out from the Seahawks. I think he was on the verge of holding out this season. I know he held out last season. Holdouts are a standard thing. What's weird in this particular case is the fact that it's a running back.
I was just going to say, I mean, Joey Bosa did the same thing with the Chargers.
Yeah.
Right. I don't understand if you're a running back, you're in a position where you're much more likely to be hurt and you don't have quite as long of a shelf life.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the arguments right now is the fact that running backs don't have such a big shelf life. But there's such an ebb and flow of the relevance of the running back in the league, and it's at that point right now where they're becoming super relevant again. You know, like guys like David Johnson, Marshawn Lynch kind of led the march. He's coming back. He's probably going to be a big deal in Oakland. All these dudes, and they want more money because they're becoming features of the team again.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like you said, they're so much of a workhorse. It's a double-edged sword because on the one side they are the workhorse of the team and they are taking maybe more damage than anybody else. Every single time they carry the ball and they run, they're taking big hits. They're destroying their bodies. But on the other hand, like you said, they've got a shelf life of maybe 3 or 4 years tops in the league. So do you pay them like cornerback money and have them play for 3 or 4 years and have their careers be done, or do you say like you're great, but like at any moment's notice you could be like injured and out forever? Like you could fuck up your knee, you could tear your ACL, you could anything could happen and you could be out.
Yeah, and I think the budget deciders, those guys who are making the decision, they're probably worried about how many jerseys am I going to sell, how many people are going to buy tickets.
Sure.
And the argument is we think that we can still sell Steelers tickets without Le'Veon Bell.
Oh, they absolutely could. Absolutely
I agree with that. And that's why I think it's kind of bizarre for him to be making this kind of assertion, especially with the fact that they could probably find somebody that will put up not quite as good numbers. He's obviously talented.
Yeah,
really great player. But
if I could stop you right there, there's a very strong rumor going around that the Bills are looking to move Shady McCoy.
Yeah.
So honestly, if I were the Steelers GM and Bell, who still has yet to has he ever completed a full season? Because he's always been suspended for weed and shit. Like, he's always missed like 3 or 4 games the last 2 or 3 years. He really shouldn't be trying to make those kinds of demands when he hasn't been able to complete a full season because he keeps being suspended for stupid shit. If he was somebody who's never missed a game, who's scored a bunch of touchdowns, who was not only a good player on the field but also like an admirable player off the field, not saying he's a bad guy, but he's still being suspended all the time, he'd be in a better place to make those kinds of demands, and they might be more inclined to listen to him.
Yeah, but I mean, he also has a hell of a highlight reel to show the team. Like,
sure.
Hey, I can put up the numbers when you need them.
Right. But if I was the Steelers GM in this situation, because they have 2 choices. They can either rescind the franchise tag and let him go, or they can just hold him to it and he just won't play, because it's up to him at this point. But if I was the Steelers GM, I would say go fuck yourself, and I would just pick up Shady McCoy and just move on.
Yeah, and if they bend over for him, then this is setting a precedent.
Yeah, you're going to start an arms race for salaries like they did with cornerbacks and wide receivers the past several years.
Yeah.
So. And
what's going to happen when some of those up-and-coming rookies really take a hold in Pittsburgh?
Right.
They're going to do the same thing.
Exactly.
It's just going to escalate that price.
Yeah. So I get where Bell's coming from, but it is a business, and he's not in a position to be doing the things he's trying to do. So I don't know. Like I said, there's no right or wrong here. There's no true story coming out from either side. They're both trying to spin the media for their own purposes. So yeah, I mean, I guess I would have to side with the team in this particular case just because of Le'Veon Bell's track record.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So.
I think he's got talent, but I don't think it's worth. They gave him a hell of an offer. I think plenty of people in high school and college dream about a payday like that.
Yeah, and
especially
the deal
with the longevity that he has. 5
right.
years is fantastic, especially for a running back like that. You know.
Yeah.
You dream about that when you're little playing Pop Warner. That's great.
Right. And this deal would make him the highest paid running back in the league. Right now, the highest paid is, I think, Devontae Freeman for the Atlanta Falcons. I think he's making like a little over, it's somewhere between like $8 and $8.5 million per season. So, I mean, this would put Le'Veon Bell way over him. What does he want?
We'd be making damn near double.
Yeah. I mean, 12
at least
versus
1.5 times. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, he'll be right out there in terms of salary of people like Tyrann Mathieu. Like he'll be making like safety money, which is fucking good in terms of the hierarchy of salaries for football players. A lot of people think he's gonna give up on the holdout somewhere around after Labor Day. Like he'll come back somewhere between like the 3rd and 4th week of preseason and shake hands and everything will be fine.
Think the team will cut some like bonus money for him?
No.
They'll just keep the same.
I think they'll stand their ground. I think he's gonna have to bend in this particular case and take what they've given him.
Well, that's what okay.
But I mean, even with the franchise tag, he's still gonna be the highest paid running back in the league this year and next year. So just I don't know.
So back to Shady for a second. Where would you put McCoy if not in Pittsburgh with all of this craziness?
Oh.
If Le'Veon takes the deal, where does
Shady go?
Shady, yeah.
I have no idea, honestly. I wouldn't be able to pick a team off the top of my head. I do get the idea that the Bills are just going to tank. The fact that they've already done so much, I think they're going full on Jets. I think they're just tanking.
Well, you're right off the top. Your base picks would be kind of already covered by the draft. I would send him to Carolina, but McCaffrey looks good in preseason so far.
Yeah, he looks dynamite
fast,
in preseason.
Yeah, he's really versatile player.
He can catch, he can cut. The dude is just, he sees that hole and he goes straight forward. He's going to be dynamite this year.
So there's one other team that I can't think of off the top of my head that we were talking about earlier that I would send Shady to. It's going to bug me now.
I can list off every team.
Green
in the
Bay.
NFL.
This Green Bay.
Shit, that's not a bad idea, actually.
Yeah. If you would go into the Packers could use a nice running back now. They've got a pretty tight receiving core.
Yeah.
And if they were willing to wheel and deal, I'm sure that the Bills wouldn't mind picking up a receiver or somebody in a skill position, maybe even somebody for the defense. I mean,
that's not a bad idea.
Yeah,
at
I would
all,
probably
actually.
send him to Green Bay.
Yeah, that would add a whole new dimension to their offense. That'd be scary. I think they're already going to take the division anyway, but damn, that would just be, yeah.
Can you imagine if Aaron Rodgers had more time to sit in the pocket and throw the deep ball?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no reason that they couldn't do that now and just throw in some wild, wide run plays now just to open up the pocket a little bit for Rodgers, but he doesn't really have a problem getting the ball off anyway, so.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of the Packers, if we want to change subjects real quick, the Westgate Superbook, based out of Las Vegas, they recently put up numbers for the most bets to win the Super Bowl. Packers were number 2. Cowboys were number 3, which is fair. Number 1, number 4, and I'll go ahead and say number 5. All surprise me. Number 4 is the Giants. Vegas is just now getting their first pro football team in the first time ever. They've never had one before, so maybe they're just not really familiar with football. But no offense to all you Giants fans, but I don't see the Giants taking the division, much less going to the Super Bowl. And it's really fucking weird that like the Cowboys and the Giants are both ranked 3 and 4 for bets to win the Super Bowl, and they're in the same division. Which to me kind of tells me that there's like a whole lot of people who aren't really on the up and up as far as football making these bets.
I think there's just contention, you know.
Yeah.
I don't understand why the Giants are there. I get the Cowboys. I totally get the Cowboys. I think they look really good in this preseason.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of talent that's just unmarked. So what happens when you have people that are proven from last season?
Right.
You throw in a bunch of X factor talent. I think as soon as the first 5 weeks come through, we're going to see the Cowboys just gaining some major momentum regardless of this Zeke suspension.
I think so too, and I was going to bring up the Zeke suspension. The NFL is pushing for a 6-game suspension. He's already appealed. You and I talked about this before. I think the NFL felt like they had to take a hard line with this one to kind of make an example of him a little bit.
Yeah.
I feel like the 6-game suspension was setting the bar super high, so there would be some sort of negotiation between Goodell and the Players Association. He's going to be suspended. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
I feel it's going to be more like a 2 or 3 game suspension when the dust settles.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I definitely think they're putting him on a pedestal. I would bet on a 3, maybe even a 4-game suspension.
That high? You think so? I'd say 2 or 3 tops.
I think it's a little bit more touchy, considering they have to set the precedent and considering all of the things that they've missed in the past. They're really making an example of him.
Yeah.
They gave Tom Brady 4 games for allegedly. If it wasn't a locker room guy, these people he took some air out of the balls.
Well, you saying bad shit about my boy Tom?
Yeah, your boy Tom.
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady.
What are you fucking coming on with this shit, man? What are you coming on with this shit? Come on, bro. Fucking Patriots. The motherfuckers talking shit about the Patriots. Come on.
Talk shit about my
Patriots.
Anyway. Yeah, I think if you're going to give Tom Brady 4 games, you got to give Zeke at least 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And this is coming from a diehard Ohio State fan, somebody that really loves Zeke, and I was really impressed by him last year. I don't think that they're going to give him any less than that. If they did, it would really kind of open the door for a lot of
players to come in swinging, hitting women.
I'm saying they're going to catch a lot of flack from people that are not associated with the NFLPA or whoever. Right. You know. Yeah. NFLPA will catch so much flack for that because they've been behind Zeke the whole time, which is their job.
Well, yeah, no, it's not that they're defending him for being an alleged, I don't know what the term would be, perpetrator of domestic violence or hitter of women or whatever you want to call it. I think they're literally just doing their job from a neutral standpoint and just making sure that Zeke and everybody else who goes through these types of investigations has a fair shake. So the NFLPA is not defending the player versus any alleged victims. They're just making sure that from the outcome of all this, the player is getting fair arbitration. So,
sure, yeah.
So it's anybody who would say that the NFLPA is anti-women or anything like that for defending somebody like or Ezekiel Elliott is just not. They're spinning it for their own purposes, I think, honestly. And
I do think though that the NFL does need to take this stand now, that they have to set a precedent for the conduct unbecoming. It's any large organization that's in the spotlight now has that same thing. Big time conglomeration of people where they're in the public eye. Mm-hmm. They need to conduct themselves in a specific way. It's doubly important for NFL players to do the same thing.
Yeah.
For somebody like Ezekiel Elliott, who is heralded by everybody in Dallas right now, and everybody, half the people in the country.
Whether he chooses it or not, he is a role model. Exactly. Sorry, part of your contract and part of being an NFL player means you are now a public figure and you're now a role model. So,
how conduct many kids in the Southwest or wherever bought Zeke Elliott jerseys last year?
Yeah, he had a high-selling jersey too.
Yeah, and they need to be able to say, hey, if he does something that's not quite in line with what we think an NFL player should be doing in their downtime, all right, let's hold him accountable.
Yeah. So how do you feel about the dichotomy between the police investigation finding Zeke Elliott innocent of all the charges and the NFL, I guess their own private investigators, finding him guilty of conduct unbecoming?
I think if the NFL investigators found anything that the local authorities didn't, then we need to be hiring them for more investigations.
Yeah, let's get the NFL investigators taking a look at the Trump Russia scandal
into the White House. Send them into the White House. Yeah, they're going to be better off solving that case. I think it's exactly. We touched on it with conduct unbecoming. Like, if your NFL investigators can find something that the authorities didn't, then that's really impressive, and that's concerning also. But at the same time, I think they have to say that they've done their own investigation in order to say, hey, we've looked into these allegations as well, and it does not look great for you. Like, regardless of the fact that you were not convicted,
right.
you're still incriminated, right? So we have to take that into consideration in our deliberation.
I don't like the idea that a player can be suspended just for being alleged of these crimes, though.
Sure.
I mean, it's clear that, the NFL believes or feels that their investigators found something that warranted the 6-game suspension, even if he didn't necessarily commit the crimes he was suspected of. But it's weird that it almost feels like they're going to set a precedent of just suspending people who are under suspicion of doing these things, just to scare other players from not being suspicionized of doing these things. You know what I mean? Just make all the players just fucking terrified of leaving their houses on the weekends and going out to the club because they don't want to be, you don't want to have to look over their shoulder all the time.
At the same time, I don't think the guys that end up doing these things, actually commit the crime, they're not going to be scared about it.
True.
They're going to be going to the club anyway.
That's true.
So they have to put it out there as a warning label.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a huge deal for them to say hey, we recognize that the local authorities decided against this, but
we are the law.
But we have to say for all of our players that this is not okay, and we have to make that stand. They're doing it in a very flamboyant way right now. It's very loud.
They're overreaching, I think.
Yeah, a little bit. It could be argued that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't understand. I don't think that it's necessarily a bad idea for them. There are plenty of people that have been calling for this for the longest time.
Sure.
And now they're finally just deciding to do that. You mentioned Goodell, needs to kind of backtrack a little bit.
Yeah,
and take a stand.
Yeah, I think maybe in just a little way, the whole Zeke situation is maybe a little bit of overcompensation for what happened with Ray Rice.
Ray Rice, yeah.
Maybe. It's a slippery slope we can get into, and we can have all kinds of angry comments in the YouTube channel, and we can get hate mail and shit if we want to get really deep into it. But for me, it's one of those things. It's not black and white. There's a whole bunch of shit going on, clearly, because the law says one thing and the NFL says the other, and it's very strange. It's weird.
Well, and one of the arguments that I heard on SportsCenter was something about how you can't put it out this way and then attack the NFL Players Association, because the fear is that the victims of these crimes will actually not come forward anymore because they feel like the NFLPA is going to be lambasting anybody that actually comes forward and says, yeah, actually I was a victim of this violence or whatever.
Have they though?
They haven't. They haven't, but it's just they think it's a fear-mongering kind of tactic.
So ESPN said that?
There are always going to be people that argue that opinion. I don't necessarily stand by it, but I understand to some degree that these are people that are celebrities. They're in the limelight.
Right.
If the local authorities didn't find anything and they have been doing this suspicious activity over and over again, it's likely that they're doing something a little mischievous. It might not necessarily be as crazy as some of these allegations actually are.
Sure.
But it's still conduct unbecoming.
Yeah.
And that's why I understand it. It's Ezekiel Elliott might not have hit somebody, but he probably at least got in front of somebody and said some loud language. And it was kind of intimidating.
That's something we saw recently with Lucky Whitehead from the Dallas Cowboys. He had that whole weird situation where he was wanted there was a warrant out for his arrest for robbing a convenience store, and the guy that they caught gave the police Lucky Whitehead's information, his name, his social security number, all that weird shit. So it turns out that Lucky Whitehead wasn't actually guilty of what he was, wanted for. The police acquitted him. He was dropped off all charges because everything was fine and dandy. And then the Cowboys still said no, he's gone. And one of the things that Jason Garrett said in the press conference right after the fact was that the teams know more about their players than the media does. So Lucky Whitehead was not necessarily released for being under suspicion of larceny. I feel like there was a whole lot of other shit going on, and maybe that's the case with Zeke Elliott.
Yeah, in those situations, how does he know his social security number? There's some details that were missing.
Yeah, Lucky Whitehead, in that very small, brief window of time, he really proved himself to be just kind of a magnet for bad shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I get the feeling that the NFL did their due diligence, or at least the Cowboys did their due diligence with that situation. They were like, yeah, this guy's just not a good fit for this team.
Yeah,
he's there's probably more shit coming in his life in the near future that we just don't want to have to deal with.
You have to weigh his performance against the PR threat.
Sure, right.
What would that end up in numbers? It's the political aspect of the
Yeah.
NFL.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm stoked for this season to get started.
I am too, man. You know what we actually did? We didn't get to the number one pick for the Westgate. What is it? It's the Westgate Superbook from Vegas. The number one pick to win the Super Bowl as far as betting odds in numbers in Vegas. You might actually just get up and leave. It's the Raiders. The Oakland Raiders are the number one bet in Vegas to win the Super Bowl.
I guess I kind of get that.
Because it's Vegas?
Because it's Vegas and everybody loves Oakland right now. Oakland has so much hype behind it.
I think that hype is not going to amount to a Super Bowl win.
Agreed.
I do think they're going to come out swinging. I think they're going to be, sorry to say, they're going to be a fun and exciting team to watch this season.
Yeah.
I think Marshawn Lynch, even if he doesn't necessarily contribute in terms of touchdowns and yardage, I think he's still going to be a driving force in an offense, in that locker room in general. Derek Carr is about to release that amazing Fire album, which is just going to be unbelievable. He's going to be the next upcoming pop star. So they just got so much hype right now and so many good things going for them that, I definitely see them, if not wild card, outright winning the division and going to the playoffs. And if as long as nothing crazy happens like what happened last year with Derek Carr breaking his leg, I can see them going deep in the playoffs too.
I think so too.
But I think they're just on the cusp of that. If they win the Super Bowl, it'll be kind of amazing, honestly. I don't see it just yet. Not just yet.
No, I don't. Especially with so many wild card, so many variables.
Right.
I mentioned before how it's exciting to watch those teams that have the X factor, and that might happen in Green Bay if Shitty goes.
Mm-hmm.
But man, Oakland has so many more wild cards.
Yeah.
There's so many more variables there that you don't really know what's going to happen. The team is
When did they become so stacked? Like, when the fuck did that happen?
They did a good job with marketing, first of all. Just getting the hype kind of built up around Derek Carr. Just came out with fire.
Yeah.
And even with his injury, everybody is still hyped on Oakland, and that's because the rest of the team was performing. They did really well.
Defense.
So the first time in a long time where I was kind of scared when the Broncos were going to play Oakland. And before that, it was kind of like, throwaway game. Glad to have that W on the register. Let's move on.
Right.
Now it's like, I have no idea what's going to happen, and I'm probably going to be pissed for another week.
That makes it exciting, I think, though. I wish the same thing would happen in the AFC East, like with the Patriots and all that. I think it's due time for the AFC West to have that shake up.
Yeah.
I think a lot of divisions. For a long time, I've even been pulling for like a reorganization of all the divisions because it's become so stale. So for me, as just a general fan of football, it's exciting to see a team like the Raiders come back up and contend for that division. And I wish there was more competition happening in the various divisions. I think football desperately needs it. I don't want to see football become stale like the NBA's become stale.
People used to not care about the AFC West at all, and now, as soon as the Chiefs got some gumption behind them, and then Oakland showed up,
right?
It's been crazy. It's been like a real spot of contention.
It's been fun. It's exciting.
Yeah,
that's what it should be. I don't ever want to see football turn into the Cavaliers versus the Warriors for 3 years in a row.
No.
Even though the fucking Patriots do that anyway.
Yeah, but the what you get is what we saw last Super Bowl, where you think you're gonna get a Falcons win. Where everybody roots against them, and then at the end they're like, "Wow, damn, the Patriots are so good."
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? They're talented. They've got a lot of. It's coaching.
Yeah.
And
Patriots.
It's Tom Brady.
Super Bowl. I've been playing a lot of Nintendo Classic. A lot of Punch-Out in particular. And that Super Bowl to me just looked like it was like Punch-Out, where like you wait for the other guy to swing and you just dodge and dodge and dodge. And then as soon as they're open, you just fucking beat the shit out of them until you win the Super Bowl.
And then you win the Super Bowl.
Like, I feel like that's what the Patriots did that entire thing. We're like, oh, did you guys have fun? Yeah? Oh, fuck you.
It's just a big collapse. It's a really crazy show of momentum. Like, what does that have to do with the game of football? If somebody were to ask me about that, I'd point them to last year's Super Bowl.
It's everything.
It's huge.
Momentum is everything.
Yeah. To see the Falcons go up like that and then just crash and burn, it's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, the last few Super Bowls before that, it's just been kind of a boxing match back and forth.
Yeah.
You know, back to punch out. more of a legitimate boxing match as opposed to, you know, just getting, you know, catching a left hook and then just getting completely demolished.
Yeah, just never
the
recover.
second half.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
I don't know. Out of that, back to that list again though. The Raiders being number one, I kind of understand why they're on the list. I wouldn't put them at number one though.
Who would you put at number one? What baffles me is the fact that the Patriots aren't on that list at all.
Yeah.
If I was a betting man, I would go with the Patriots. Not necessarily because I'm a fan, but just because the odds are they're going to go back. I mean, the team is largely unchanged from that last season.
I understand that, but also if you take into consideration the payout from bets, your go-to bet is the Patriots.
Right.
Kind of like you just mentioned, and you're not going to get quite as big of a payout for betting on the champion horse, right?
Right, that's true.
So if I were in Vegas and I'm looking for at least 2 to 1, 3 to 1 odds, sure, Oakland, the Packers, I would bet on the Packers. I would bet on them or the Cowboys to take it.
Yeah, fair enough.
I don't understand the bet on the Cardinals though. I don't
know which news outlet it came from, but what some guy took like a 300. I think the standard right now is like 301 for the Cardinals to go to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. And I can't remember if it was like a journalist from ESPN or Bleacher Report or somebody. It was floating around as a story for a little while, but the guy took the bet. I'm a Cardinals fan. I am very, very reserved.
It's a development year.
Season.
It's a development year.
It's not even a development year. It's like the year before the development year. It's not even the rebuild. It's like you're waiting for the wrecking ball to come and hit the building before you start building the building that replaces that. And I think, you know, honestly, not to sound pessimistic because I love my team, but I think everybody's just waiting for that wrecking ball and just waiting to see what happens after the fact. I mean, it's going to be Carson Palmer's last year probably.
I agree.
And as soon as Carson Palmer decides to hang it up, Larry's going to go too. He's already shown no interest in wanting to go through that whole carousel of quarterbacks again. So,
well, in all or nothing, Carson Palmer said, "I thought last year was my last year."
Sure,
and,
yeah,
and you know, it's now been 2 years after that. So,
and this year, this offseason, they're having to be very, very careful with him. He's taking a lot of days off from training camp. He was not allowed to throw at all during the offseason. They restricted him a lot during OTAs too. So, they want his arm to be absolutely fresh.
Makes sense.
But now there's a lot of questions raised about their receiving core. There's a lot of shit going down where dudes are just not catching balls. John Brown can't stay healthy. He can't run. You can't play football if you can't run. There's been rumblings that Steve Keim's already looking at game tape for replacement receivers, even though there's really nothing out there.
Yeah, and his defense is not altogether there.
Yeah, Calais Campbell was a huge loss.
That is
it's a massive loss. He was just like the foundation of that defense. I'm excited about Budda Baker though. Budda Baker's going to be fun to watch. I don't know if there's any sort of package they can put together for the defense where they got Tyrann Mathieu and Budda Baker lined up as both safeties. I think they're both like they're more like free safeties. Like neither one of them is a strong safety, so it might not be smart.
Kind of alternate.
But it'd be fun to see that kind of energy on both sides of the field if they wanted to try that. Well, we have no cornerbacks.
Pat P. You have Pat P.
Okay, yeah, but Pat P's a shutdown corner. But then you never thought of Patrick Peterson, and you've got a great chance of completing a pass.
Yeah.
We don't have any other shutdown corners.
That's why the Colts are so successful with the whole Marvin Harris and Reggie Wayne.
Right, yeah.
That's why people love him, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, football.
Yeah. Oh, what are you going to do?
Yeah. I think we should cut here. And we'll we'll cut here, and then we'll grab more beer, and then we'll do a dissolve to the logo. And then we'll dissolve back and we'll just talk bullshit. So the magic of the internet, we have new beers.
Hey.
New beers. What are we drinking this time, Alex?
This is No Nelson. It's one of my favorites. Ooh, here we go. No Nelson Schmelson. It's a pale ale from McFate Brewing out of
Scottsdale,
South
Arizona?
Scottsdale, yeah. Well, actually, I guess it should
It
say
started
Scottsdale,
north, and then they expanded the south location, which is now their main hub for brewing. Yeah.
Yeah, they used to be Fate Brewing, and unfortunately they had a little name dispute with Fate Brewing out of Colorado. The gentleman who runs this brewery, or owns this brewery, the founder, his name's Steve McFate.
Mm-hmm.
Is his actual name McFate? That's pretty
fucking
badass.
badass.
I guess they started first, but they kind of dragged their feet on the trademark. So Fate Brewing out of Colorado now owns the name of Fate. They did a rebrand. They're now McFate, as you can see on this can.
But I've actually got the OG glass.
Yeah, before.
Yeah. I think I've got the OG sticker on the blackboard there from Fate. So.
Missed out on the merch when they
Yeah.
made the switch. They only had like double XLs left. But anyway, I've got the sticker and the patch and that too.
Yeah.
Great brewery.
Fantastic
their
brewery.
Southside tap room is just fantastic. It's huge and it's got a lot of patio space. Anyway, the beer they brew, which is the most important factor, is great. This one in particular is one of my favorites. I would rank it in my top 5 beers that I've ever had.
Really? Top 5?
Yeah, it's kind of wild.
And this motherfucker's from Colorado. Like, he's had, like, more beers than probably anybody else from any other region in the country.
Yeah, and if you look at how light this beer is, considering that, I mean,
I'm going to get a good shot.
Some people don't think that you can make a pale ale that's quite so versatile, but no Nelson Schmelson. This is one of my favorites. They named it that because they actually have a Nelson Schmelson, which is made with Nelson hops, which are hard to get for most of the year.
Right.
This is their kind of holdover for that same beer build with no Nelson hops. Fantastic though. It's really, really great build of a pale ale. I think a lot of local beers here, and in the West Coast in particular, they've been trying to make pale ales with a lot of variety to them and a little bit more depth than you normally get.
Right.
Because they're pushing them closer to IPA without hitting that barrier where it's like, this is really bitter, the IBUs are really up. I'm not sure the IBUs on this. I think it's somewhere close to 60, but it's not.
Typically list IBUs on the can unless it's like a specific.
It's not over the top. I'll look it up while we're sitting here, but it's not crazy. Really approachable.
Yeah, it's like 5.8 ABV, so it's pretty sessionable too.
But it's really full bodied. It's got a lot of flavor to it,
Yeah.
and it's just great for easy drinking, and it's not challenging at all for anybody that I've suggested it to.
Nice.
So definitely one of my favorites. Got a lot of character to it.
Yeah. I'm gonna drink it.
Let's drink it. Cheers.
Yeah, everything you said about that beer is true.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's very good. Yeah.
I say that not bad about one of my favorite beers. That's how critical I am. I'm generally very critical of my beer.
It is interesting that point you made about pale ales becoming more and more hoppy and becoming more IPA-ish, which is strange because there's also such a movement to kind of normalize and mainstream the IPA itself. Like the New England IPA has kind of become like a movement that's swept down from like the Boston area down to the Southwest. It's become really popular in the Southwest and California. I think that it's late hop, so it's hazy.
It is,
So you get that hop floralness, you get the bouquet, but not necessarily much of the bitter hoppiness inside the body of the beer. It's hazy, it's unfiltered. A lot of people like it, a lot of people don't. But I personally am a fan because it's a more legitimate way of making the IPA a little more mainstream, as opposed to what a lot of breweries have been doing lately, which is tapping their IPAs way too early, so it's just sugary bullshit.
Yeah,
not an IPA at all.
They don't let the sugar sit for long enough for them to develop.
Yeah.
The No Nelson is actually 40 IBU. I was way off.
Oh, really? That's
so
that's super. That's not bitter at all. That's
really
pleasant.
approachable.
Yeah.
It does what a New England does actually, but it doesn't have the cloudiness.
Right.
So you get the clarity in the beer. It's not obviously not very fully clear. But,
yeah, it's not translucent, but it's not hazy. Like there's no particles. It's definitely it's filtered, pasteurized. So.
And that's the draw that most people are seeing with the New England is that it takes a standard IPA build, which is kind of a little bit higher ABV than you generally would get with like a Pilsner or a regular pale ale or something like that.
Sure.
And then it cuts the hop with this like cloudiness of some of the sediment still being in the beer, and
right on.
letting it be a little bit more unfiltered.
Mm-hmm.
Still delicious. I like the New England. I prefer a pale ale that's made really well.
Yeah, I would have to agree there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I respect the New England IPA because of what it is and what it stands for and what it's trying to achieve. But yeah, I would rather take a hoppy, like a pale ale that's on the higher spectrum of hoppiness as opposed to a New England if I could choose between the two.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm right there with you.
I think the funny thing is that there aren't many places that are making a pale ale that's quite like this. I think it's just the West Coast and even just the Phoenix area, because I've been up in Flagstaff a lot recently, and I'm not seeing a lot of similarly built beers, not a lot of pale ales. You don't get that. And when I've talked to people from the East Coast or elsewhere, they give me weird looks when I say I really like pale ales that have a little bit more punch to them, that are close to that IPA threshold. I don't know what you're talking about. Pale ale is like pale ale is what I drink when I'm trying to get like wasted with my friends.
Right. Yeah.
You're like a Sierra Nevada standard, which I would still take a Sierra Nevada over a domestic any day. But
sure,
like the
I would have to agree there. Yeah.
You don't really get that outside of the Valley or outside of some West Coast California breweries.
Right. A friend of mine, actually a couple of friends of mine, suggested that we do some sort of like a beer guide. Actually, through watching the videos and reading the website, they've become a little bit more interested in beer. They didn't really find it entirely approachable before. So now, like, they're going at the grocery store and they're sending me pictures of like the pick your own 6-pack cabinets, and like they're doing it shelf by shelf and ask me to pick beers for them based on what their taste might be. So I'm very sorry, Katie and Anna, but I've actually tried to pick some beers that would challenge them just a little bit.
Yeah.
So they're like one's from Dallas, Texas. The other one is from the suburbs of Chicago, and the one I most recently recommended beers from was from Chicago. So Midwest. I'm sure there's a lot of really good breweries out in Chicago, but like what we just talked about as far as what's going on the West Coast is certainly not indicative of what's happening up in Chicago and thereabouts. So, and she's not much of an average beer drinker anyway. She's more of a wine drinker, but she's become interested, which is great. So the fact that the second draft inspired just one person to explore new tastes in beer,
success.
Like we can quit today and I'd be happy.
Done, yeah.
So what I recommended for her very strongly was the Pacific Wonderland lager from Deschutes.
Nice, yeah.
Because she's
just had that one. It's good.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. It's a lager, it's a pilsner, but it drinks very much like a light ale, which is it's hoppy, but it's not bitter hoppy. It's very much like this, where it's got like a nice bouquet to it, and it's kind of like a stepping stone into from that safe Budweiser Coors flavor, kind of that gateway into like the oh my god, you can actually like drink beer that tastes good type of flavor.
Right. Yeah.
So
I recently had that lager, the Pacific Wonderland, excuse me, and it was good. It wasn't like overly challenging, right?
No.
But what I get from a lot of lagers is that it's like really heavy,
right,
and kind of like so much of a full body that you kind of like feel like you ate something.
Like German lagers are like a whole like meal unto themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I didn't really get that with this Deschutes beer,
very light,
which was much welcomed.
Yeah.
Very great.
Yeah. The other one I recommended for her, just because it was totally out of her wheelhouse but still approachable, Breckenridge Vanilla Porter.
Nice. Yeah.
Because it's a porter, but it's not particularly bitter for a dark beer, and that vanilla flavor is just right, and it's very approachable, and it's I wouldn't call it a dessert beer or necessarily sweet, but it's very pleasant and mild. So I'll have to check in with her and see if she enjoyed both of those.
It's pretty sweet. I mean, for me, it's pretty sweet, but I also like a lot of bitter beers. So
yeah. How do you feel about sweet dessert beers? And like Uncle Bear brewery here in the Valley. For those of you who don't know, we're based in Arizona. Uncle Bear does this fantastic peanut butter cup porter, and I swear to God, it tastes just like a Reese's peanut butter cup, like with a whole bunch of beer poured on it.
I've never had it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's dynamite. But like, what's your thoughts on that? Like, do you enjoy like the sweeter, experimental, like chocolatey type beers, or are you more like straightforward? Like,
it kind of depends. I've had, because my fiance loves the Not Your Father's root beer.
Yeah.
So I've had to kind of go experiment with the sweeter beers just to see if there's anything that's a little bit more approachable. I don't think she's ready for a vanilla porter quite yet.
Okay.
Because to me, that's relatively sweet.
Yeah. How do you feel about Leinenkugel?
Leinenkugel?
I feel like
like a summer shandy.
Yeah, I feel like she might be able to get into that because there's a whole array of like sweeter, fruity beers that are still beers, but they're a lot more approachable, a lot easier to drink. Like I call them like what I would refer to Leinenkugel would be like a game, like a beer that would be perfect for like an outdoor baseball game. Like it's refreshing, it's crisp, it's not challenging, it's not heavy, it's a little bit sweet, it's a little bit fruity. I feel like that's something that she would be into if she wanted to give it a try.
She might be. I think she's had some of the like not the standard summer shandy, but some of the variants. Like I think they've got like some kind of tropical version or like a pink version. But I don't think that she's super into like a Pilsner build, and as soon as it gets close to that, then she kind of shies away. So it kind of depends. Really into seltzers at the moment, so it's kind of like outside of like a hard seltzer.
Yeah, I can do that.
But as far as beers go, if you broach the vanilla porter area, it's a little bit too heavy. So, I'm kind of like tapering in, and when I'm making recommendations for people, it's the same kind of concept. For your friends that you just mentioned with wine preferences, I'd be curious what those are, because sometimes when I hear somebody that's kind of coming into craft beer for the first time, I want to hear what their wine preferences are, because it gives you an indication of what their taste buds like. Yeah. And kind of what they're looking for in a beer build.
Yeah. Yeah, I almost wanted to recommend, but it's really hard to find because it's relatively new, is the Lagunitas Dark Swan.
Dark Swan? I've never had that.
Yeah. It was, I don't know if it was limited release, but it just came out in, I think, late June, maybe July. A dark ale infused with Syrah wine grapes. It was fucking amazing. I think I should reviewed it on the website. Okay. So you should visit theseconddraft.com and read that review.
Yeah. I've been there before.
This new website. It's a good website. I like it.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
But the beer was delicious. I was actually blown away because it's an ale, but it drank like a wine, and it had like that heavy wine buzz to it too.
Really?
Okay. Yeah, it was really weird, but I liked it a lot.
Do you remember the ABV on it? It was kind of high.
Oh, it was like 8. So it was getting up there. Yeah. Huh. Yeah, but it was delicious. But if it was something that was like easily accessible and easy to find, I would recommend it to my my wine drinking friends who might want to try beer, because it was such a interesting like amalgam of beer and wine, but it worked very, very well. I don't know if that'd be like a good gateway for them, but yeah, it was good.
Most people who drink like a hardcore wine or something like a little bit darker with a punchier ABV, I think they translate a little bit more regularly to a craft beer. Cabernet Sauvignon, people generally like the hoppier, bitter beers. Something like I wouldn't be opposed to recommending an IPA to somebody like that. But if they're much more of like the Pinot Grigio type, then I'm going to be...
if they're drinking Merlot, it's like, no, there's just no hope for you.
Let's talk about Hefeweizens and something that's a little bit more wheat beer based or fruit based.
Yeah, that's actually a really good link. Hefeweizens and Pinot Grigio is like white wines. Mm-hmm. Yeah, good call. Yeah. All right, so I'm a huge... Like, let's say hypothetically, I've never had a glass of beer before, and I'm a huge Pinot Noir drinker. Super fucking deep body, dry as fuck wines. What would you have recommended for me in that particular case?
For you, I also enjoy Pinot Noirs. Yeah. Pinot Noir and Cabernet is where I usually go, which very much to me explains my beer preferences, which is why
I love big, bold, heavy, challenging flavors. I learned that way with food. With women.
Big, bold, heavy. Challenging. Challenging women.
Challenging is definitely
I think, okay, for a Pinot Noir drinker, I would ask what your where you cut that off. Like, what are your limits when it comes to going to something darker, or how do you feel about white wines in particular?
I, in particular, am not a huge white wine fan. It's fine if there's nothing else available. But white wine gives me migraines. I get chronic migraines. It's genetic. And for whatever reason, white wine is a trigger, whereas red wine is fine. I can drink it all night long and be fine.
I think there's a family thing because I get the same.
It's genetic.
I don't get migraines per se, but I definitely get a lot quicker hangovers from white wine. Just terrible headaches. No, I wouldn't go so far as to say migraines, but
Mm-hmm.
to answer your question, a Pinot Noir, I would probably recommend something with a drier finish,
Mm-hmm.
something with a hop build that has a dry finish, something that's a little bit on the lighter side. I wouldn't necessarily go dark immediately unless you were keen on heavier flavors.
Right.
So I would probably go for an IPA with like kind of a more approachable.
Maybe like a red
fruity,
IPA.
Yeah, red IPA maybe, or something with fruit in it.
Right.
Like a lot of people are into the citrus right now. I wouldn't go straight to a citrus.
Yeah.
With a kind of like the mandarin flavors or whatever. What did they call it? Clementines or you know what I'm talking.
Tangerine's a big deal. Yeah, right now.
I wouldn't go straight into those flavors, but something maybe with a little bit of a floral note.
Cool. So Anna and Katie, if you're watching, you should definitely start drinking Hefeweizens because I think that might be right up your alley. So
definitely.
Yeah. Anybody else who might be listening who might be interested in getting into beer? Yeah.
I'm not an expert by any means.
No, neither of us are experts. We're just, having fun talking about alcohol and drinking alcohol.
We've definitely explored, though. So
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I wouldn't call myself like an authority on the subject, but I would say I'm more or less like a journeyman.
It's a journeyman beer drinker.
Yeah, I'm not like the Aaron Rodgers of beers, but I would say I'm maybe like a Derek Carr. No, maybe he might be a little bit above.
He's up and coming. I like that. Derek Carr is good.
I'm the Drew Stanton of
no,
beer. No, I'm better than Drew Stanton.
Yeah. He could hit homers though. We went to Larry Fitzgerald's celebrity softball game down here in the valley, and Drew Stanton just crushed it.
You know who's a fucking monster is Ndamukong Suh.
Really?
Yeah. The year before we went to that, I went the year before, and there's Ndamukong Suh who's like 11 and a half feet tall, and he's like 12 feet wide. And they do, like you said, Larry Fitzgerald hosts this celebrity softball tournament for charity every year. And before they throw the opening pitch, they do a home run derby. And Ndamukong Suh walks up there, and he fucking swings the bat with one hand, and every fucking time he hit a home run.
Home run.
It was
just monstrous swing.
Just
every time.
That is a terrifying human being. And what's awesome is he seems like such a sweet, well-spoken, just very cordial guy off the field. Like I know people who've met him and talked to him, and they said he's just fucking cool. But he's a monster. He's a terrifying force on the football field.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
That's the kind of person you want, though. That's who the NFL wants behind them.
You want a guy who's gonna rip somebody's fucking head off on the field and like go and pet kitties and pick flowers once they're off the field.
Yeah, leave it on the field.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like the perfect football player. Yeah. Speaking of shit that's not perfect.
You know what would be funny? Before we get too far off of beer.
You know where I'm going with this. Yeah.
Yeah,
you know where I'm going with this.
Before we go anywhere else, before we go to where you're thinking, if we were to take the, because there's a beer equivalent to the sommelier, which is called a Cicerone or a Cicerone, depending on who you
Cicerone.
Yeah, Cicerone.
The Italian accent.
If you're from
Sicily, Italia.
If you're from Sicily, that place.
Sicily.
No, they have a beer equivalent. I wonder if we were to take that test.
I'd fucking fail that
what
test.
would happen? You think so?
I would get so drunk.
I was like, I love this beer. I love this beer. This beer is the best. This beer I don't like quite as much. This beer is fantastic.
But they would interview me. They'd be like, "Oh, what would you pair this meal with?" And I'd be like, "You see all those beers over there?
One of those."
Yes.
Yeah, beer pairings may be something that we want to adventure with on the second draft.
Yeah.
To kind of take a look at beer build versus food, or not necessarily versus, but how does it go with specific amounts of food?
See, I like beer. I think I've developed, I would say maybe a better than average palate. I can tell you whether a beer was used with like crystal as opposed to malt. Maybe kind of sort of, I'm trying to build my palate as far as being able to identify hops and whatnot. That Mosaic beer we had earlier was, a really good, like almost like a training exercise. Like if I could have identified them, but I'm not the type of person, and I've never been one to really understand how sommeliers can grab a glass of wine and be like, coffee and terra firma and trout and strawberries.
Tennis balls.
I believe the grapes were grown in the backyard of an old man who was 95 years old living in Florence, Italy, and he's a diabetic, and he wore a toupee for the later half of his life. He had 4 grandchildren. No, see, yeah. And there's people who will do that with beer. They're like, I detect a hint of grass with just a hint of tangerine peel. Smells like Floridian tangerines. And I'm just like, it smells good.
It smells tasty.
It smells like hops, and it smells like oranges, and
yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that's about it. But yeah, I mean, I can tell, like, we were talking earlier about how a lot of IPAs are tapped too early and are too sweet. Mm-hmm. I feel like a lot of times when they use crystals as opposed to malts, that happens a lot. It comes out too sweet. So there's a lot of indicators, and the more obvious indicators I'm more capable of identifying. But no, any kind of beer sommelier test, I would just make an ass of myself and just, get laughed out of the room. So
yeah, I mean, we're definitely the everyday beer reviewers, but
sure.
But we can recognize bad beer versus good beer. And excellent beer versus mediocre beer.
Right. Speaking of mediocre.
Speaking of mediocre. Let's throw on blast all of our least favorite breweries. Ready?
Let's just fucking do this, right? Yeah. But no, speaking of mediocre, you haven't started watching it yet. I don't even know if you watched any of the other Marvel Netflix series. You can pretty much just watch Daredevil and safely skip all the others. Jessica Jones is really on the fence. But The Defenders just launched this week on Netflix, and it's fucking terrible. Yeah.
It's that bad.
I mean, Daredevil was Drew Goddard as the showrunner.
I've only seen 2-3 episodes of Daredevil.
You should watch all of Daredevil. Daredevil is great. But watching Daredevil, it feels like you're watching like a 2-season long movie. It's just great. Like A-list cast, everything was just spot on and great.
It had Fulton in it, so
Fulton Reed from the fucking Mighty Ducks. Yeah. It also had Vincent D'Onofrio as Wilson Fisk in both seasons, which he fucking kills it.
Nice.
But Daredevil was just, I felt so carefully and meticulously planned and designed and produced, and it was dynamite. And Jessica Jones is a little bit below that. Luke Cage is way below that, and Iron Fist is just this piece of fucking garbage that just
it's stuck to the ground. You've got to use a spatula to
Yeah, well, they said that they didn't even start choreographing the fight scenes until they started filming.
No.
And they didn't start they had already they were basically ready to start filming when they cast the dude who's playing Iron Fist, he played Sir Loras in Game of Thrones actually. But the fight scenes, Iron Fist in the comics is supposed to be the ultimate unstoppable quintessential kung fu master in the comics. Like Bruce Lee on steroids, snorting PCP, out of your fucking mind, amazing, literally trained in heaven how to become a badass martial artist. Yeah. And he gets his fucking ass kicked on the TV show all the time. And anytime he looks like a badass, it's all weak choreography and shit. But it's poorly acted, poorly written. It goes fucking nowhere. And they made this goddamn decision to carry on The Defenders, which brings all these characters, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Jessica Jones, and Daredevil, into one series. And they made the fucking boneheaded decision to make The Defenders a continuation of the Iron Man series. Or Iron Fist series, sorry. So they took the worst show, and that's what they built this new series on. It's been hyped.
Gotta have a good foundation.
Yeah, I mean, the show's been hyped for fucking years, and I'm going to say it's honestly probably worse than Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on ABC. It feels like a cheap-ass ABC series. It's poorly acted. The production design is so fucking shitty.
The reason is because a lot of these comic books, they don't translate well to TV. Oh. Some of them do. I mean, Daredevil, for instance, I watched 3 episodes. I didn't really have an opinion of it.
It takes a little while to get going. The whole first series is more or less like an elongated origin story, kind of. He actually doesn't, spoiler alert, he doesn't actually don the suit and become Daredevil until at the end of the series. But his journey getting there is so compelling and so well written, and I
would probably write it similarly.
Yeah. It almost feels better him wearing the fatigues and the cheap pads and the bandana around his head than it does him wearing the Daredevil suit, because it was such a natural progression from one to the other. But The Defenders is just so insultingly poorly written, and it's so lazy, and
it's just really bad.
The production design is, for some stupid fucking reason, they decided to bring all these characters together in this one series, and they color code everything. So
you mean color grading?
No, I mean they fucking color code. Okay, so Jessica Jones, for whatever reason, is this purplish tone. So every time, this is all taking place.
They try to do like the Matrix, like where you get the green tones.
Yeah, but they're color coding it based on the character. So like Jessica Jones has like this purplish bluish motif. So anytime she's alone on screen, she's in like this icy blue color gradient, like this color coding. And then they'll shift over to Luke Cage, whose primary color in the comics was yellow. So they're both in New York City, the exact same time of year, and it feels like you're going from like winter to like the dead fucking heat of summer. And then, like Luke, like Iron Fist is like this really lazy, like green, blue, turquoise color. And then the funniest of all of them is Daredevil, because his color is red, and they keep finding these like half-assed bullshit reasons to have like some sort of like red coloring every time he's in the frame. So like there's one scene in the first episode where like he's having lunch with like his on again off again girlfriend, and they're having lunch in like a New York style diner, and the whole fucking thing is like blood red lit. And I'm like, how the fuck did you come up with a way to have this diner like blood red lit in daytime? And the camera shifts over, and they have these massive giant fucking red fluorescent lights over like the lunch counter, and that's the whole show. Like once they start bringing the characters together in the show, it becomes even more ridiculous because they're trying to clash all those colors together. So like at one point, Jessica Jones, because she gets arrested often because she's a vigilante. Yeah. So she's sitting in an interrogation room in a police station, and Matt Murdock walks in. He's like, "I'm your lawyer. Shut the fuck up. Don't say anything more." And for some fucking reason, the inside of the door when he opens it is red. No. And he pulls out a red file to start talking to her. What the fuck?
So when did they?
It's like they're the fucking Power Rangers.
When did they summon Captain Planet? that's the real question.
Honestly, that would make the show better, man.
They like put their hands together and Vision pops out like, "I'm here." Look, I have an Infinity Stone.
But it's just the dialogue is so fucking childish and bad, and the production design is just so on the nose.
It's not redeemed by anything else.
There's no redeeming qualities of it. I'm on the 4th episode now, and it's so fucking boring. Like it's just people standing around talking.
That sucks.
And the fight choreography is still terrible.
So it's like the Gotham equivalent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they have superheroes. There's 4 of them. Yeah. They're why? I don't understand that.
I don't get it either. I don't get it.
That's why I think it doesn't translate well to TV. I mean, you can get more cool minor character development through television, but it doesn't. It's nothing that you can't accomplish in film in 2 hours. You get enough of happy from Iron Man by watching those movies.
Right.
It might be cool to see a TV show with Tony Stark kind of like being aloof and Happy being more of a factor, but you don't want to see that over and over again.
You don't want to see that.
And we get just enough of Pepper and Happy in the Iron Man movies.
Yeah, I agree.
Done.
I agree.
Give me more of the superheroes.
Yeah.
Give me more of Tony Stark doing cool shit with an Iron Man costume.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Like the Defenders budget feels like it's like nothing. It feels like there was literally no money. Like I feel like they spent all their money on gels to light the scenes.
Oh, no.
Because like what you just said, nobody gives a shit. Like Jon Favreau is a blast in very small doses in all the Iron Man movies, and even Spider-Man. Like I think he was one of the highlights of Spider-Man. Imagine, if you will, like at least 1/3 of every Iron Man movie being like Happy talking to some other minor character about nothing that pertains to the actual plot. Like they take all the minor characters from all the various Marvel shows that are on Netflix, and they're all just talking around, and there's no fucking heroes anywhere.
That would be terrible.
Like they got Fulton Reed from the Mighty Ducks and Trinity from the Matrix, because Trinity was initially like she was like one of Jessica Jones' clients or whatever in her run, and Fulton Reed plays I can't remember the kid's name, and I feel bad. I keep calling him Fulton Reed, but
his like he plays his sidekick basically, right?
Yeah, he plays his sidekick lawyer friend, and there's entire like 15-minute long scenes where it's like Foggy talking to that lady from Jessica Jones, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, did the stars of the show ask for more money, or did you just have no money to begin with? You've been hyping this shit for like 5 years. Show. Yeah. The whole thing is just a fucking mess. Like, I can talk for another fucking hour about why it's so bad, but all the good parts of all the shows that were leading into this one main show featuring all these characters are just, everything's falling apart at the 0 hour. So there's a lot of mysterious shit going on with Daredevil that everybody was really hyped up on because they handled it so well in Daredevil. Then Iron Fist came along, and they have the same more or less protagonist or antagonist, but they wrote it in such a way that it's not actually the same antagonist, just the same organization, and nothing matches up. And all the weird mysterious shit.
They just went Cabal.
Yeah, like I imagine like the writers and Drew Goddard, the showrunner from Daredevil, probably watched Iron Fist and he's like, "What the fuck are you guys doing?"
You robbed the antagonist of any interesting factors.
There is no antagonist anymore. It's a completely different character they invented for Iron Fist. But it's all splintered. It makes no fucking sense at all. Like I'm sure they're saying to the people who did Iron Fist, like, "Did you even fucking watch our show, or did you just say that's a cool name for a bad guy organization? Let's do whatever the fuck we want." And they've done it a second time in the Defenders. It's the same organization, but all new people, all new motivations, and nothing makes any fucking sense.
It sucks.
There's, say what you will about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the main movies. There's a lot of cohesion there. Everything makes sense. Everything ties in together. For some reason, they couldn't do this with these rinky-dink TV series.
And that's just another example of why they're more suited to film than television.
Yeah.
Here, speaking of movies.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen the trailer for Logan Lucky?
I have not.
It just came out. Evidently, it's like fantastic. It's like a 90. It was in the 90s in Rotten Tomatoes the last time I checked. But Steven Soderbergh, I'm a big fan of because of Oceans.
I love Soderbergh too. Yeah.
I don't like a lot of his recent movies before he retired, but I will forever think he's one of my favorites because of Oceans.
Yeah.
It's just one of my all-time favorite movies.
It's a fun movie. It's a blast.
They were referring to the first movie, Ocean's 11.
Yeah, Ocean 12 was...
And then 13 was...
Yeah, I mean, like, Ocean's 11 was this fun, cool, like, caper heist movie, and all these dudes got together, and it all seemed like they had a blast, and then they, it came around time to make Ocean's 12, and it kind of just felt like Soderbergh was like, I'm going to make a movie with all my friends again, and it's going to be fun, and we're going to, get drunk and make this cool heist movie, and then Ocean's 13 is just like, let's just keep this party going, even though we have no fucking reason to.
For me, I like 11 is my number one, then 13, then 12.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What about 13 do you think makes it better than 12?
Maybe Al Pacino. I don't know.
Al Pacino does make a lot of things better.
That's a quick, just like, I'm going to throw that in there.
Al Pacino, fuck it. All right, we can move on.
But they threw in a lot of the nuance that they had in the first movie that they took out of the second one. They still had some of the fun kind of like character interactions, but that's what you watch Ocean's movies for. Yeah. It's like if they're gonna make Ocean's Ocho is coming out next year.
Yeah, it's like an all women cast.
All females. Yeah, it's got like Nicki Minaj and Sandra Bullock or somebody. I don't really know who's in it, but
all right.
There's a bunch of people.
McCarthy, is it?
I hope not.
I'm gonna be pissed at Melissa McCarthy.
I really, really hope not. Not that I necessarily have anything against Melissa McCarthy, but she does not fit into Ocean's Ocho.
The only thing Melissa McCarthy's done of any value, and this is even a stretch, is fucking Gilmore Girls.
And she was great in Gilmore Girls.
She was adorable in Gilmore Girls, yeah. And then she just became this weird fucking female Chris Farley type character.
She became female Zach Galifianakis.
Yeah,
she was that character.
Yeah. She was in Bridesmaids. Yeah.
Yeah, we could talk about it all day, but that's another episode that's coming up. Also, Ocean's
Look out,
Ocho,
Melissa McCarthy.
Ocean's Ocho pre-movie watching, pre-screen, and then also Logan Lucky review also coming up. Anyway, I think from the trailer, what I get is that he just went more of the like serious but comedic route, like dramedy.
Okay.
But it reminded me a lot of like some Wes Anderson tones, like a little bit of quirky fun. But Soderbergh kind of does that.
He's got that quirkiness, that fun.
He's always had his always his foot in the comedy realm, and he had that in Oceans.
Yeah,
which is
absolutely.
one of the reasons that I love it. You get the twins in Oceans were hilarious.
Yeah.
I loved watching them on screen.
Yeah.
So it's one of my favorite movies, and I could talk about it all day. Maybe we'll do another review of that, but.
I could do like a re-review type thing.
Yeah, we can watch watch the Rat Pack version and then watch the new version.
You know what? I'm totally down for that. We should actually do that.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Game on.
Yeah, we should compare the two. Yeah.
But we should also go see Logan Lucky. I think
there should be like a regular thing. We should watch originals and then watch the remakes
and see how they stack up. Yeah,
maybe not necessarily weigh the one against the other because that's oftentimes not fair to do. But and we're never gonna fucking watch the new Ghostbusters. Like again. Melissa McCarthy, if you're by some weird chance watching this, you seem like a lovely woman, but I hate the movies you make. I actually tried to watch I tried to watch the new Ghostbusters and I got a half an hour in.
I didn't even try.
I know, but we're not going to do that. But Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of movies we could watch the original and then watch the remake. That would actually be a really fun segment.
Let's do it. Let's stack it up.
Look out for that. It's gonna happen.
Be on the lookout. Put in the comments what you think we should check.
That is a fucking good idea. Yeah.
We're gonna start with Ocean's 11 though. That's the first one.
Yeah, because it's our idea, so we get to decide how this starts. Because we have the microphones. These are the microphones that we have.
These are power granting machines.
I don't see you guys on the screen. I see us on the screen. So, but you guys can pick the next one. Please do. Come up with an idea and tell us which original movie and which remake we should watch and then talk about.
And beer recommendations too, if you've got them. Because we're always looking for something outside the Valley area or wherever. If we can get it here in this area, or up in the north, then we're gonna grab it and we'll do a review.
Yeah, we're open to, like you said, like anything that's got like a wide enough distribution that we can pick it up. You might have your favorite neighborhood brewery, and we certainly have ours. But I mean, you guys wouldn't be able to find Fate where you are, most likely. So keep that in mind. But yeah.
The SBC just started to distribute, so look out for Scottsdale Beer Company.
Only in Arizona.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Only in Arizona. They're gonna get there.
They'll get there.
Yeah. Should we wrap it up from here?
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
I feel like that whole invitation to tell us what to watch and what to drink is a good way to wrap this up.
Yeah. I
think we've hit like the hour mark too, so I feel like people have probably already stopped watching at this point.
They've got it on their background. Like, I'm working right now, but these guys keep blabbering away. I'm okay.
I think the majority of people watching this right now probably had the same reaction I had to Ghostbusters. It was like, I tried the first half hour and no, not for me.
Didn't really do it for me. I hope it's not the case.
I wouldn't blame him if it was. So, thank you always for watching and for interacting. And as always, come visit us at our house at theseconddraft.com. We're going to put the URL down there like we always do. And there'll probably be a link in the comments. And again, like we always say, this is a conversation. So if you have something to add or you think we left something out about what we've been talking about today, tell us how fucking dumb we are and then tell us what we should add for the next video or start a conversation with us. Because
we're happy to argue.
Yeah, I fucking love arguing. Yeah.
Or, agree profusely about how awesome Ocean's 11 is.
Or how awesome we are. Or
this beer.
This beer is fucking awesome.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. So thank you, as always, for watching. Thanks. And we're going to see you guys again real soon.
Cheers.
Cheers. Finish it. Fatality.